Okay, welcome back to another video. I'm going to make this one kind of really simple. I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I've been getting a lot of questions lately on my editing process, how I, achieve some of the colors that I achieve on my edits, specifically through the YouTube videos and Instagram. Definitely head over to the website. My blogs are very rich with photos, and I always give examples, and there's also a bunch of presets over there. So that comes to the second part of how I edit. I do develop a set of presets that I happen to use on most of my images, and I color grade using them. And today specifically, I want to focus mainly on my Kodachrome V2 set of presets for Lightroom. I do use Lightroom personally for editing. I do not use Capture One. I've tried it before. It's just another skill set for me to have to learn, and I'm just comfortable with Lightroom. I've started off with Lightroom, and I've just stuck with them ever since. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some files from, mostly they are, I believe, from the Leica M10, Leica QP, and Leica Q2. Most of them are around Philadelphia and New York City, but I just kind of want to show you some street photography photos and how I edit them out, and you can follow along in my process with this screen capture. So just bear with me while I set that up. Okay, so here we are in my Lightroom module, and I just have, looks like 10 photos up here. Some of them are graded, and I'll reset them and then start over again. But just some street photography. These ones down here are from Philadelphia. Number 7's from Philly. I think number 6 is from Philly. And then 1 through 5 are from Soho and Chinatown in New York City. So let's get into the develop module real quick. And I'm going to kind of run through all these and kind of show you how I go about, editing these photos. Right off the bat, you can see some of my Lightroom presets over here on the left. I'm going to start off with this one. Things are running a little bit slow right now, and that's because I'm running a screen capture through OBS using a Sony ZV-1 for my my main camera here, and then obviously running Lightroom. So a little laggy, I apologize. But let's get right into it. Right now, you can see pretty much a flat image. When I kind of shoot digital, I tend to underexpose a little bit. I find that helps me pull up the shadows later on if I want to. But I'm really concerned about my highlights. I want to keep all this detail right here on the brick area that you can see off to the right of this gentleman here. That to me is what's most important. So right off the bat, I'm looking at this, and I'm fine with the exposure. I'm fine. This is a DNG. I believe this is from the Q2. I can see it's 6,000 by 4,000 on the resolution here. So I'm going to go right into my Kodachrome, and as you can see, I have, various different ones here on the left that, I can kind of pick from. And right off the bat, I'm going to go into my, my Kodachrome McCurry preset. Now, we all know that Steve McCurry is an amazing photographer, one of my favorites, and he was definitely renowned for shooting Kodachrome. I'm going to add these to the preset pack, but right now I only have them right here because I'm in development with those. So right now I have it McCurry with grain and without grain. I'm going to use it with the grain. I'm going to put the grain in it just to kind of give that film kind of vibe. And already you can see, I don't know if you can tell on your monitor, that it's kicked up the grain a little bit. I like the colors. I don't mind a little purplish tint. If I wanted to warm it up a little bit, if I wanted to warm it up just a little bit, I can. The tint, I kind of like where it is. It's got that like bluish purpley tinge in the shadows, but I'm going to bring down the green just a little bit. Now what I do for most of my images, if I really want to kind of flatten it out a little bit or even expose it a little bit more, I tend to leave the exposure where it is. Sometimes I'll move it a little bit left and right. This one I'm going to kind of just -5, but I'm going to bring the exposure a little bit flatter with the contrast. I'm going to lower my contrast. Right now I got to lower at 59, 60. I'm going to leave it right around 60 5960 I'm going to have on my contrast. Now that's going to be different for every image, guys, but this is a roundabout the way I kind of do things. My highlights, I usually bring the highlights down because I like to recover my highlights. I don't like to have my highlights blown out like this. I like to see detail in the highlights. And that's why sometimes I'll underexpose. I'll expose for the highlights and then I'll still drop it down just a little bit. Shadows, I can open the shadows up a little bit, plus 38. My highlights were negative 53. My shadows 50 plus 38. My whites are different. Sometimes if I want to just really kind of show off the highlights a little bit more, if I want to bring up the vibrance of the highlights, I'll bring my whites up. In this one, I'm going to bring them up just a little bit, plus 10. And now my blacks, again, that starts to add to the exposure as well. I can bring my blacks really far down and kind of create some kind of a mood, a mystery on this photo, or I can kind of leave them where they are, or I can kind of raise them. On this one, I kind of want to raise them because I want to have that sense of like early morning, that faded kind of film look. Texture and clarity, I kind of really don't mess with it. Sometimes I'll take clarity down a little bit. Sometimes I'll add a little bit of texture. I'll put a little texture in on this one, plus 14. Now here's where vibrance and saturation kind of take a turn for me. Right off the bat on this preset, I have vibrance set to plus 26. If I evened it out, you can see that it's fine. It does okay, but when adding that vibrance, just that little bit, you can see it really in this one, not so much in the shadows, but in this one, you can see it in the warmth. Here's normal. Now watch the sidewalk area and the side of that building right in front of him. You can see it gets a lot warmer, okay? So I'm gonna warm that up a little bit, that vibrance I'm gonna add, plus 26. Saturation, I don't think I'm gonna do much. I'm gonna put plus 3 on that. I'm not gonna mess with my tone curve. The tone curve is already built into this preset, just where I want it. I have all my, hue, saturation and everything dialed in. And again, that's how these presets come. They're starting points, guys. They're not, right out the gate, ready to go. For sometimes they're point and click, but like I said, I try to make them so they kind of work a little bit for everybody. Sharpening, I always sharpen 100% on this, well 150, but what I do is I use my masking option, okay? I'll mask the image, and by doing that I hold down the option key, okay? Hold down the option key and drag my slider, and what I want to do is I want to get it all the way up to like, this is like at 93. The only thing I want sharpening around is like the extreme edges, okay? It's not needed, you could take it off, but I like it. It doesn't do, it doesn't hurt the image. You can check off your lens, calibration if you want, your lens correction. I do that. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll mess with auto on transform because I want my lines to be straight, right? You can see this telephone pole next to him, this light pole, it's a little bit crooked. If I hit auto, it's gonna straighten that out, it should. Things take a little bit. Right now you can see it just straightened out everything, and that's kind of where I'm gonna go. I have a vignette added into this, but if you don't want to do that, you can take the vignette off. Me, when I vignette, I tend to take the vignette down a little bit at the amount, then I take the midpoint all the way to 0, I feather it all the way up to 100, and I do my highlights at 100, and then I readjust my vignette, and that's kind of where I want to put it. Now you'll notice on here I have JD Raw development tools. In the Kodachrome preset pack you have your frames and everything, so I'm going to take this off and this off, and I'm going to use black frame number 4 on this one. 5 is really thick, really thick on the sides. I'll do 5 is fine, and that's going to be it for this one. This is how this image will look. If I could pull it up real quick, I'll see everything's taking a while to load, but you can see that film grain, you can see how pretty that is, and it just has that, kind of nostalgic vibe to it. Let me exit out, let me take off the soft proofing. Let's go to number 2. I'm gonna kind of run through these quick because I don't want to make this like a super long video. Again, I'm gonna go into New York City, and I'm gonna go to New York City adjusted. New York City Kodachrome adjusted. I kind of specifically did this one for the streets of New York. it's kind of right where it needs to be. It's really just kind of messing with some of the saturation and some of the tones here, but I'm going to open this up a little bit. I'm going to take the vibrance down. I'm actually going to take the saturation down just a little bit on this one. But as you can see right here on the right side, you can see that the highlights are low and the contrast is lowered. The shadows are heightened. The whites are -10 on this one, and the blacks are +14, and that was probably just to bring out some of the shadow area in these dark doorways here. You can see all the way through I have all my tone curves adjusted, my hue saturation, my color wheels, my color grading. Sharpness again is 150, but then I have an 86 on the mask. And auto transform on this one will straighten out the building. You can see how that worked. I do not have a vignette on this, but I will add one a little bit. -13 on the amount, all the way 0 on the midpoint. I'll feather it 100 and I'll highlight at 100. And then I'll add, let's say, frame. We'll do a number 5 on this one too. I think the thickness looks good on this. And that one's going to be done. And I will bring that one up as a full so you can see. That's where we are on that image. This one was kind of cool. This is in Chinatown in the market. You know, they're the people in Chinatown, great people. They're used to photographers coming in there, but you know, you don't want to linger around too much because they start to get annoyed with you because, you know, you don't want to bother them. They're trying to do their business. I'm going to mess around. Let me see where some of these Kodachromes are, where I like them to be. And I'm going to use the, McCurry, I believe, on this one again. Steve McCurry. It's taken a while to render. I apologize because I'm running so much. So you can see right here, I laid the color grade down. It's fine, but I want to take the contrast all the way out on this one. -94. I want to up my exposure a little bit. I want to up my shadows a little bit. I want to bring down my highlights. Okay, look how much that did. You can see the city area all back here, how bright that is with the highlights. It's all blown out, but if you bring them down, you can bring all that stuff back. Bring up the shadows. Whites, I'm going to leave them right where they are. And the blacks, I'm going to bring them down just a little bit. Plus 12. They were a little higher. So right now, plus 12. Saturation is fine. Vibrance, just a little bit. My tone curve is fine. Let me see where the crop is on this. Sometimes I'll use the crop tool and I'll just hit auto just to see if it levels it out, and it did. And I'll close that out. And I'm going to go down. Sharpening is right where I want it to be. Lens, it's not really a big deal because this is with this is the Q2, and auto for the transform, and that kind of just straightens it out. There we go. Yeah, I like that. I think that's fine. That's kind of where I want to be on it. Let me see. I don't have any grain on this. I'm actually going to bring some grain in on it. I'm going to bring that grain to 30. I'm going to bring the size up to 31. Just kind of get a little crunch on this image here, a little grain. And black frame. You know, when it's busy like this, sometimes I feel like the thin one doesn't work out that well, but I'll use it anyway. And there we are on that one. Let's go to this next guy. This guy was great. He kind of actually posed for me. I don't know why. I didn't ask him. He just was doing his thing. We have the Steve McCurry's on here, but let's do something different. Let's go with just a regular Kodachrome. That's 64. I have some older, like vintage 1930s. 1930s is pretty cool. I'm actually gonna do. Let's do that. Let's do 1930. 1930s Kodachrome, but see, it puts a little bit of a haze on it. I'm going to take that off, okay, guys? You can see the tone curve here, how it goes up in the shadows. Whenever that goes up in the shadows like that, that's where you're getting that haze. I'm going to bring that back down. I'm going to take that all the way out, okay? And I'll bring it back just a little bit. And you can see how crunchy he is right now, right? So I'm going to take that contrast out. I'm going to bring these shadows up. Okay, I'm going to bring those shadows all the way up. I'm going to bring the highlights down. I'm going to bring my whites up a little bit. I'm going to bring my blacks just, they're up from where they were. They're negative 64, so they're still kind of dark. Let me go into the crop here, and let me see if this will adjust. Yeah, I evened it out a little bit. And I'm going to go a little bit more with this. I'm going to bring up the vibrance, okay? I'm going to bring up the vibrance on this one, and the saturation's at plus 10. I'm going to bring that back down to like plus 5. Bring the vibrance up to plus 41, okay? I don't mind where the highlights are on this tone curve. I'm going to leave it just where it is. The color hue saturation and your color grades, that's fine. I'm not going to mess with that. My sharpening is good. I'm going to actually bring that up a little bit on the masking. I can check that off. It's not going to do anything because it's all built in for the lens correction. And I'm going to go into transform again. I'm going to hit auto. It should straighten out that garage door. You could see it kind of brought that more even. And this guy's going to look good with a vignette. I'm going to put a little vignette on him. Again, negative 18, midpoint is 0, feather 100, highlights 100. And then I might bring that down just a little bit, and he is good to go. We'll put a frame around him, make him look good, and call it a day. And that is your full image coming up right now on him. You know, I really do enjoy shooting the Leica Q2 and the Leica M10 for street photography. There's just something magical about those cameras. All right, let's see. Let's go on again here. McCurry, let's do this one. Yeah, I like that. I like this one a lot. Let's see where these are. I'm sorry, I was just getting a note. All right, Stephen McCurry. I'm not going to put any green on this one. And let's see here. I'm going to open up the contrast. I'm going to bring up my shadows, up my highlight, up my whites a little bit. And my blacks, I'm actually going to bring my blacks up a little bit. And I'm going to bring up the exposure just a little bit. Bring down these highlights. There we go. I like where everything else is showing up. A little bit more vibrance on this one. And all the way back down again to, it already put the vignette in there. Boom, done. Sometimes you can get more saturation in your colors if you mess with your blue primary. If I jack that up, you can see how it kind of brings all them colors up. But I don't want to go crazy with that on this one. And that's kind of done. Again, like I said, guys, once you have these color grades kind of set the way that you like, whether you make your own presets or, you know, you end up picking mine up, it kind of makes it really quick and easy. And I'm just kind of showing you how I mess with the sliders, and I kind of mess with them the same way every time. So let's skip this one. Let's go into this one here. Again, same thing. Let me see here. I'm going to go with, I'm running through some of these here. Let's see where I want to go. All right, let's go to Kodachrome Contrast 64. I'm going to take the contrast out of it though, and I'm actually going to make this a little colder. I'm going to lower the temperature here at 4719 Kelvin. Put a little green on this tint here. A little green. Let me hit the crop. Let me auto the crop so it straightens it out. I am a sucker for when lines are not straight. I'm going to auto transform just to kind of correct for the lens. This one was actually with the Leica M10 and a 35mm Summicron. Let me bring down my highlights because I want to recover all this up here above this gentleman's head. Bring down the highlights. I'm going to bring up the shadows a little bit, up the whites just a little, and bring up the blacks a little bit. and a little bit more vibrance because it's really colorful with the fruit. And Kodachrome is a very colorful film stock. Whether this represents Kodachrome well or not that important to me. It's more about just having a nice preset color grade that I can use that makes all my photos kind of cohesive, and that's what you're looking for with a series and a set. I'm gonna add a frame on that one and call that one a day. Let's go to this one here. Nice bright sunny day scene here. Let me look what contrast does. Adjusted contrast is a little strong, 64 is kind of even. And let me go back down to, I'm just stuck on these Steve McCurry grades. I'm going to do that one again. Let me see what New York does. New York's way too saturated, although I could take the saturation down. Let's try that. Let's try New York adjusted, and what I want to do is take down the saturation on this, and I'm going to take it down the vibrance on it, and I'm going to bring up my shadows. I'm going to bring down my contrast, bring down some blacks, up some whites. And it's like so funny because I'm kind of doing this without even looking at the image, because I kind of know exactly what it's going to do. I know what the color grade is going to do to the image before I'm even messing with it. I'm going to bring down the temperature a little bit. I want this to be a little colder. I want a little bit more green, and that's it. Let me straighten this out. Auto, and let me go down and transform. Auto, the lens, correct for that. And that gives me a good up and running thing. I want to get a little bit more in this brick area right here. If you blow out your highlights, you see it's gone. I want to bring the highlights all the way down on this one, and the contrast down a little bit more. And I'm going to bring up the exposure just a little bit, a little more shadow. Let me see where the vignette is. I don't have any vignette added in yet. I'm going to do that here. And let me bring up the exposure a little bit on this. And that would be kind of done. If I want to kind of do something a little different with this one, I already have some blue mixed into the midtones here. If I want to bring that down a little bit stronger, I can kind of do that just to kind of blue up these shadows here, make them a little bit more bluey and purple. I'm going to do that, and that will be a little bit more on the shadows, a little purple there. And that's going to be it, and I will put a frame on this sucker and we'll hang it on the wall, and that one is done as well. All right, let me go back into the full deal here, and let me just go into capture. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. That's just kind of a quick insight into how I edit using my Kodachrome V2 preset pack. I'm not trying to push the presets on you. It's very easy. I kind of showed you exactly all my colors and hue saturation. I'm sure you could pause the video and kind of make your own Kodachrome. Again, I call it Kodachrome, not that it is Kodachrome. It's just a good way for me to make a cohesive set, and the way I like to start with my color grades. As you can see, they're not plug and play. They're pretty much laid upon the image and the file, and then I kind of adjust from there. So if you like that kind of look, definitely head over to the website, check out my blog area where I have a lot of stuff colored with that preset, and also the preset packs, and there's a few other ones, and I'm gonna kind of do a couple more videos like this as well that show all the different ones. All right, guys, thanks again, and I appreciate you checking in with me. See ya.